Every morning for 10 years, Ash went to the road. He went before the hold was fully awake, in the dark before first light, and he took his place at the edge of the gate yard where the northern road crests the hill and comes into view. He sat. He waited. He watched the road until the light was gone from it at dusk. And then he came back inside and ate and slept, and, at first light the next morning, went out again. The pack stopped asking about it after the first winter. My steward, Brennan, noted it once in the hold's records. The king's great wolf keeps vigil at the north road, reason unknown, and then stopped noting it because there was nothing new to report. The younger wolves in the yard had grown up with it. To them it was simply a fact of Grayfen, like the frost that came early, and the stone of the walls, and the way the light came down from the tower, window in a long bar across the yard each morning. I knew what they did not say aloud. Ash had been my mate's wolf, before she was mine. He had come to me when she died, 10 years and 1 month ago, on a night in the first hard frost of autumn, and he had been grieving ever since in his own way, which was apparently this: going to the road and waiting for something he had no language to name, and that I had no wisdom to explain. I told myself, in the first years, that he was waiting for her. That grief in a great wolf looks like this, like returning to the last place of hope, over and over, until the body accepts what the heart does not. By the 5th year, I had stopped believing that. By the 7th year, I had stopped telling myself anything at all, and simply watched from the tower window each morning while Ash went to the road, because watching had become its own kind of vigil. I could not explain what I was waiting for either. I only knew that the mornings I did not watch felt wrong in a way I could not account for. 10 years, 3,652 mornings, give or take. I counted. The morning it ended was a frost morning in late autumn, unremarkable in every way except that the light was very clear, and the road to the north was empty as far as I could see. Ash went out as always. I was at the tower window as always, a cup going cold in my hand, watching. He reached the road's edge. He sat. Then he stood up. A figure was coming up the road from the north. On foot, alone, no horse and no escort. A traveler's pace, unhurried. A mended canvas satchel over one shoulder. Still too far for me to read a face. A woman, from the shape in the walk. Not a wolf. No pack colors. No insignia. A mender, perhaps, or a wandering seamstress. We saw them sometimes in the late season, making their rounds before the winter roads closed. Ash did not wait for her to reach the gate. He walked off the road's edge and crossed the frost-gray yard toward her. Directly. Not circling. Not cautious. The walk of a creature moving toward something it has been looking for a very long time. I set the cup down. She stopped when he reached her. She looked at him, this enormous gray wolf who had not voluntarily approached a stranger in 10 years. And she did what I had not seen anyone do in all the time I had kept watch. She knelt, no hesitation, no performance of bravery. She simply went to one knee in the frost of the road and put both hands on Ash's great head, the way you might greet a river or a stone that has been there longer than you have. Ash lay down at her feet. That was when the mate mark came. I saw it from the tower, the pale gold light rising at her wrists, visible even at this distance in the clear autumn air, and the answering blaze at my own, which I had not felt in 10 years, and which arrived not as a shock but as a recognition, the way a word returns to you that you have been reaching for since morning. I was down the stairs before I knew I was moving. The gate yard in autumn smells of cold stone and frost-killed grass and, faintly, of the pine smoke that comes down from the hold's upper chimneys. I had crossed it 1,000 times. I had never crossed it the way I crossed it that morning. Without a plan, without anything prepared to say, only the certainty that the place I needed to be was not in the tower. She was still kneeling when I came through the gate. Ash's great head was in her hands and his eyes were closed, and he looked, for the first time in 10 years, like an animal at rest. She looked up when she heard my boots on the frost. Her face was the face of a woman who asked nothing of rooms before she entered them. Settled, unhurried, the particular calm of someone who had been a long time without a fixed home and had made a kind of peace with that. Not young in the way that startles, steady in the way that lasts. He came to me, she said, not explaining or apologizing, only accounting for the fact. I know, I said. I was watching from the tower. She looked at the mate mark on her wrists, then at mine, then back at me, with the directness of someone doing arithmetic she had not expected to need this morning. I don't know what this means, she said. I've heard of it. She stopped. I've never been in a wolf hold before. I sat down in the frost across from her, not standing over her. not commanding the moment, because it seemed the right distance for what I was about to say. "His name is Ash," I said. "He was my mate's wolf. She died 10 years ago, in the first frost of autumn, on a night very much like the night before this morning." I looked at him, lying quiet and enormous between us. "The morning after she died, he went to the North Road and sat there until dark. He did it again the next morning, and the next." I paused. "He has done it every morning since. I have watched him from that tower every morning since. I did not know what he was waiting for." She was very "I think," I said, "that he knew before either of us did." She looked down at Ash, at the great gray head resting in the frost, the slow rise and fall of his breathing, the utter and absolute ease of an animal whose long work is done. Her hand moved, not toward me, not yet, only to rest again in the fur behind Ash's ear gently. "10 years," she said quietly. 10 years. She was quiet for a moment. The hold was waking up around us. I could hear Brennan's voice somewhere in the yard, and the sound of the morning fire being laid in the great hall, and the ordinary sounds of wolves beginning their day. None of it touched the frost circle of this moment. "I've been walking north for 3 weeks," she said. "I had no particular destination. I was following the work." A small pause. "I almost stopped at Thornwick. I'm not sure why I didn't. I thought about 10 years of mornings, about the word I had been reaching for since before I knew I was reaching." "I'm glad you didn't," I said. She looked at me then, fully, with the careful attention of someone deciding something, and I did not look away, because it seemed important that she have all the time she needed, and that I not rush this, and that she know she was free to stand up and walk back down the road if that was what she chose. She didn't stand up. She held out her hand. The mate mark blazed, both wrists warm and gold in the cold morning light, and Ash lifted his head from the frost and looked at us and made a sound I had not heard from him in 10 years. Not a howl, not a bark, quieter than that. The sound of something set down after a very long carry. I took her hand. I brought her inside, out of the frost, and I stood with her in the great hall before my pack, and told them what had happened and who she was. They went to one knee, not because I commanded it, not in the formal way of ceremony, but in the way of wolves who have watched Ash go to that road every morning for 10 years, and understand, without being told, what it means that he came back. Sarah did not flinch at the kneeling. She stood straight and looked at them all with that same unhurried attention, and I thought, this is a woman the road has made patient, and patience is not a small thing to bring to a wolf kingdom in the north. Ash did not go back to the road the next morning. He went to the window where Sarah was sitting with her mending. She had not lost the habit, and I hoped she never would, and he lay down across her feet as if that were simply where he lived now, which I suppose it was. Brennan updated the hold's records that afternoon. I looked over his shoulder as he wrote, "The king's great wolf has ceased his vigil at the North Road. Reason, the waiting is finished." I thought that covered it.